we have this drink, and it's green, and I brought. Ah, okay. So we do have sound, and we also have my friend Posey and the Flamingo here. But we are here for the creative panel talk. A tribe to vibe with, a talk on creativity and communication. And with me today, I have Boise, Gaga, and Zoom from Conspiracy. And the reason why I have them isn't just because they have one revision twice, but also because I really wanted to get you on a not evoke something so you can actually maybe come to the real evoke next year. Oh, hi there.
Pleased to be here.
So just for just so you know, this is not a real evoke, so you can't say you have done this at a real evoke. So if you are enjoying the experience, please join us next year with something fresh and new. Thank you.
Okay.
So, but why are we here exactly? Um, we have gathered because I thought, okay, last year we spoke a bunch about creativity, and it's not something, it may look easy, but it's not something we are all completely in peace, even though sometimes it looks like we are quite comfortable in making art. We all are not. And this getting over yourself stage is what we have discussed last year with Anna and her wonderful guests. Um, but this year we actually have a more delicate and new situation because many people have joined us, the scene, as viewers and maybe one day also contributors. And because of the more isolated situation that is going on nowadays, we often forget that it's not just us alone that are doing the things, but that once we connect to other people and start making, we do have quite a good chance at getting better. Yeah. So this is what we are going to talk about today. Um, yeah, where should we start? Maybe with a history, and why don't you guys tell, well, how did it all begin? And, well, was it a smooth sailing experience so far? Oh, it
20
wasn't.
years.
Yeah, well,
Surprise,
it was
20
a lot of
years.
work. When 18?
But close to 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you round up, it's 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to start.
Me?
Please do.
Or anyone. Let's,
Yeah. So I'm not sure. We should maybe we can start with how quickly how we got into the scene.
Take your time. How did you
Uh,
get into the scene?
Basically, I saw crack shows when I was 6, and I was
What?
like, okay, I have to do that. And then it took me 12 years to find the demo scene. Actually, because we only knew of parties afterwards from Discmags and whatnot. And then I got into the scene. We found a Hungarian party, which was Flag 2000, and I went there. We created a demo, which was very bad, and that kind of gave me a kick in the butt. And we started doing some stuff with TRX actually, uh, and by the next year we got better, and then I went to Mecca 2002, where I created a 64K intro, and I got my ass handed to me very badly.
Which is normal
And
sometimes.
yeah, yeah, and so I came 17th out of 18 intros. 18 intros in a compo. Imagine that. And we saw that the Farbrush guys were doing these tools, and I was like, okay, I can do a tool like that,
Yeah.
and that's how I started doing tool stuff, and that's kind of where the others joined in, or I joined the others, because I was missing pieces. I had some coding knowledge, but not the quality of music or graphics that I wanted in my productions, and that's when I started looking at the what the other guys are doing, and I think that's very targeting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the how we joined the scene is, I think, was pretty similar into just finding out about it by seeing random demos and just eventually going to parties. But I think the biggest impetus for conspiracy was that like in those couple of years between when we started and when we formed conspiracy was that like we were all trying to push ourselves because we've all seen those great quality intros and demos other people were making, right? And of course, when you see something really great and you're, I don't want to say ambitious, but you see the opportunity of being able to do that, then you kind of want to push yourself towards that to be able to do it. But very quickly it became apparent that like it's you need other people because you can't be perfect in every single area. And we've been incredibly lucky in that scenario that the people who ended up forming conspiracy were very complementary skill sets to each other. That for example, like the two of us who do the coding, he's more of a visual rendering coder. But he's also, by the way, decent. Like he's good at hand drawing and stuff and colors and stuff and graphics. I was always more a musical person, so we were able to split those. And the same way, like I think because we started relatively early, we were able to have the musicians and the graphics artists who are also like slightly technical. So they, it's not like they can necessarily code, but they understand how to what like technical limitations can be.
What they can.
Zoom.
Yeah, but it's not like uh, we thought one day that well, let's make conspiracy. We had a history before that, a common history, because I was guest designing for Boise in his former group Digital Dynamite. Um, I was helping with graphics in one or two of his 64K
Yeah,
intros.
that was that ominous intro
Yeah.
that got beaten so
So,
bad.
so we knew each other before conspiracy was formed for I don't know 2 or 3 years.
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 years.
Uh,
We were friends.
it all happened on IRC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But also,
similar to nowadays where things happen over the internet
yeah.
non-stop, and this is the only way. So the people
But we
who
we became fast friends as well. Like I think like so. Uh, Zoom started a couple of years earlier, but like I think I met Zoom in 2001. I met Boise in 2000, so it wasn't really that much time apart. But like by that time, we talked on IRC a lot, and we realized that like we had a very similar like ambition and goal, and we just wanted to push to get better and make better things. So it like I distinctly remember like the moment we formed conspiracy. We just came together as five people. I was like, let's do this, and there wasn't even like a second thought. We just like everyone just went yes.
Yes, what's gonna be the name?
Like what? Yeah, yes, yes. Who's doing it? What's the name? And
so
then
is
and there
there a
was never
meaning?
even a question. I think we understood that while we were in our old groups, and we still are like
Yeah.
to a degree, but that like how to phrase this that it doesn't become very dickish, but like because we were much better than what we were producing. We needed to be able to reach out to someone and become more than the sum of our parts.
Yeah, we were coming along in the Hungarian demo scene in our own separate groups, but we like wanted to make an impact on the international demo scene too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how conspiracy. Well, that's what the goal of conspiracy was.
And this is like some great like determination right there. Okay, let's slay internationally. Like not just enough for yourself having this little dopamine kick. Okay, wow, it compiled, it kind of worked, and it looks cool to music, but also, oh, I want to have more of that. And one thing that I'm kind of getting from it is the comparison, like um when people say, and I've heard this a few times, they say, I would like to be a member of a demo group. They instinctively think the big ones, like, I want to have this epic thing myself. But you don't start out as this big and cool, yeah, organism. You have to actually do it yourself and find the people for it.
Yeah, it's the same like the job market, really. You need to get experience, at least some experience, before you get the big salary.
Yeah. You have to go through the first couple of crappy jobs
Yeah.
before you get like the good ones.
But going back to it, to why we wanted to do this big thing, it was a big goal, but it was not unheard of in the Hungarian demo scene that a Hungarian group was famous internationally.
Yeah, we had
And
precedent.
yes, we had role models to imitate basically.
So you found you saw role models, or I don't know, you saw that it was out there, you saw that it was possible,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you also kind of vibed with each other. I'm going to use this word a lot, sorry, enough to think, okay, we can make this happen if we try hard for 20 years or something.
Well, it was 9 months at first, I think, or six, something like that. We decided to give it a shot, a
Hmm.
big one. We poured everything into it.
We formed in November, and the party was in
Oh yeah,
March,
right,
April, something
right,
like that. So
right.
it was a relatively brief period, but like we all bought together our
Yeah.
existing stuff, some of it.
And yeah, it was very inspiring to have people who are so hyped about the same thing that you are doing. Uh,
It is
uh,
contagious.
it was a feedback loop, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's what we used to call it, like tag team coding. Because sometimes I would like, you'd come home from university or something when Boise was somewhere, I would put the other way around, and you'd see what they did, or Zoom would bring a new scene, or some we'd hear a pattern of music from Vincenzo, or and you just like, oh wow, that's so good. I have to step my game up now because like,
And it got to the point where CNS, the abbreviation for conspiracy, became another abbreviation, which we called concrete neural synchro, because we were thinking
yeah, we
the
were
same
so
thing.
much
Yeah.
on, yeah. We
So
used to joke
it's a
about it.
it's a ping ponging the ideas, and um yeah, it's similar to what I experienced, that once you find someone who at first just nods along to you pitching them a thing, the concept in the mental image of your head of what it could be becomes stronger, because you have this positive reinforcement of someone agreeing, and it goes from being a mental conversation between you yourself and you to, okay, there's one person who's going to give me the input. So what I think would like to know is, how does this dynamic change if you have 20 years of experience? I mean, how does this process from, okay, so I have this idea, to the finished product develop? Is it a thing where you decide, all three of you, or um let's make it work, and then you think what it is? Or do you bring a idea and then try to pitch it to the other guys?
Well, we have a list of ideas. Uh, so the very first thing you have to know is that we are basically in constant communication.
Yeah.
We have our own Discord server. We are talking about shit all day, uh, and even when we are not doing much because of real life or whatever. Whenever we see a movie or an interesting video clip or something, it's in the back of our heads that I need to show this to the guys. They need to see that this is cool, and maybe that will inspire something.
Can
It's a
relate.
constant gathering of ideas.
We have very similar tastes in movies as well. I think that helps a lot. Not necessarily music, but we have overlap in that as well. And I think that helps because when it comes to not just having an idea, but communicating an idea, being able to explain what you want, it gives you the vocabulary, and it gives you the reference points of like, oh, we want to do something like that, this, except this, and you're just using existing pieces of art to just sort of triangulate what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I think like fellow artists, myself included, refer to this as let's steal XYZ from this and but turn this into our own thing.
Yeah.
So do you have, I mean, nowadays with all the tools and networking, like communication things, do you have vision boards where you collect stuff throughout the time?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
is it something that only pops up once you decide to do a thing?
We have a site. We are using Dropmark, but Pinterest also works. It's pretty much the same thing. Uh, we are collecting references and inspirations, websites, videos, images all the time, and sometimes it takes only an image to give give us an idea how the next intro will look.
And this doesn't only work for the art side; it also works for the technical side. So these ideas give us visions to strive for technically as well.
Yeah,
Not
I
just
noticed.
for music, of course.
Yeah, I
Sort of.
noticed, for example, I'm not a techie person. I have techie people for that. I just dabble. Um, but for example, in Clean Slate, I noticed like that it was extremely visually polished. Like I don't know, the glitter and everything that was there. It was as if you really knew the vision beforehand and adjusted everything to make it fit. So how messed up was it in reality? I mean, how much adjustment had there been?
Well, for Clean Slate, the initial inspiration was a video clip by Fonat. It was called "Ride the Prejudice." Uh, it's pretty much the same rhythm, like a sequence of abstract geometric scenes, uh, and well, I wanted to do the same clean stuff, but with in 64K, crammed with content, and to show and to see really how much we can do with the current engine and how much content we can put into 64K. And
Turns out it's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. It's 110 scenes, I think.
Yeah.
And this concept, this sequence of abstract scenes really fit the cause.
But it's so there's a couple of things that I want to mention about it. First off, like the concept as we talked about it initially was completely different. We wanted to do something like micro photography on plants.
Hmm.
That was the initial idea that we talked about, and
Yeah.
then
Then
I
Altair
think that
came
we
out.
just we just changed our minds at some point. I think, or we maybe just didn't communicate properly each other.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
and then when it became that, one of the things, and I know this was a slight point of contention, is like the actual like representational objects, not just the abstract stuff that we when we started adding
Yeah.
like the camera, the cassette tape,
Yeah.
that I started feeling this theme that was connecting with me as the music, as this sort of very slightly melancholy of just the time gone by, obsolete objects, that kind of stuff, and Zoom was like, "That's nice, but let's not overdo it because
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
be completely retro because
Yeah.
then that it becomes that. But if we just spice them in every so often, then it becomes this sort of hidden theme to it that's there if we want it to, if you want to notice it, that's there. But it doesn't become the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I mean, sometimes it's important to have this one person that slightly keeps you back from completely going 100% on the cliche and then okay, let's one step back and let's, for example, just add another cliche or whatever the other people are thinking. Um, yeah, I know how that feels, and
He does that. He does that with my music a lot because
oh
there's
no,
there's you. I don't mind because sometimes it's not that I don't have an idea; it's that I have several ideas and I don't usually pick, or that I don't sometimes pick the right one, and sometimes stretch it out or this part is too intense or it's just not that. And because they don't do music but they understand music enough, or because they like when there is no visuals when you do the music, it's just a tune, so it has to stand on its own, right?
it's a truth. Yes.
So when it's not good enough, then they can throw it back and say, look, this is just not there yet.
Yeah, and
We
I
have
think uh, the relationship between the musician and the visual artist is
Oh yeah.
something we absolutely have to speak about, because as a visual artist, I have a playlist, for example, for myself of things that got my inner mind eye going. So I am always very happy when I'm given a track that makes me feel the same, and you suddenly really want to make this vision in your head, this connection, justice. And I guess it's the same for you too as well, Zoom, isn't it?
we have an ongoing problem with Garguy that I don't know musical genres, so I always tell him like, let's do techno or
Yeah.
But
something
isn't
like.
isn't the
But
problem rather that Gaga knows too many musical
no,
genres?
it's the problem that I don't know what musical genres sound like.
Yeah,
but
but
also
pick like
but also like terminology.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think he's still 20 years and he still doesn't know which one is the snare drum.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
but the thing is here's the joke that I keep saying. It's not really a joke because it's true. But when he was trying to ask me to do the Chaos Theory soundtrack, he basically said I want something electro breakbeat drum bass with a hint of ambient.
Yes, but that's how I communicate as well. So
Yeah, don't.
yeah, sorry.
There's also an interesting historical point to bring up is that, of course, we had other musicians before. There
We
are
still kind of do.
Yes, there are two conspiracy members, Ino and Vincenzo, who are currently inactive. But when we had this very high flying time around 2004, when we were riding high on the first success, we really pressed ourselves to do more and more and more, and they kind of burnt out. So that also can happen.
That was one
That
of those
happens.
learning experiences
Yeah,
as well. Yeah, that like it's nice to aim high, but we can't keep aiming high all the time.
yeah, oh yeah.
That it's okay not to make a release every so often.
It's all okay not to win after a streak of wins.
Yeah, we can just make our own stuff and we can listen
Yeah,
to each other as well.
yeah,
Um, I think this is quite an important point, that oftentimes people burn out when they think they have to deliver.
yeah.
Oftentimes there's this euphoria of over promising at first, that everyone tends to just dive into because it's fun and you have an idea and you think you are going to make everything work. Then you don't, and then you need people that remind you that either it's okay to get yourself some rest, or you have to get over yourself, like depending on the situation. And isn't this something that's pretty much a normal standard occurrence in a demo group, or is it me?
Uh, yes, facets of it. I think what we got used to in the last couple of years when we were doing releases is our schedules became different because we have different lifestyles now with families and stuff as well. But also um, we don't push as hard now anymore when it comes to dude, we have to get ready for this. Like we know that we're gonna finish it for the party somehow,
I mean,
but
how important is this? Let's finish this before party XYZ.
Not as important as it used to be.
Yeah.
but at the same time, like we don't think we missed any of them because I think there's this one of those things where like, oh, if we don't finish for this one, then we'll make it for the next one, which never happens.
Yeah, because you usually choose to make
You,
something for
you
a
lose
party
the
with a
momentum. You lose the
partial vibe
momentum
and
and
vibe.
you lose the hype.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can
yeah,
we can
absolutely.
usually tell months in advance if we will actually have the time to do this.
Yeah, and that's like the production aspect of it is
Yeah.
that we learn how the both our technical capabilities and just capabilities as humans, we have a much better sense of estimation.
So you kind of have to balance out the uh, state of play that you have, and well, sometimes you have to be adults or like get someone who can be an adult and push you, or like just basically produce and manage everyone's yeah,
That, but also I think because we're so tool driven, we've started like for Clean Slate, as we mentioned, we moved to Discord from Skype, which was a huge technical sort of burden that came
Yeah.
off because Skype was so terrible to use. And with Discord, we were able to automate a lot of things that, like, when someone commits to the repository, then we get a little message that someone did something, which
Yeah.
helps. But also, like, we use like instead of whatever we used before, we use like GitHub now, which is much easier to see things. So a lot of the modernization helped a ton. But also, I think what's worth mentioning is that like we understand that after a certain point, because I like to do the music very early on so that we can listen to it for months. But afterwards, when we actually go into production, like, okay, the tools are, let's do the art. And then I don't know, Zoom got a kid and we all had jobs and deadlines and all that stuff. Suddenly, the time we allocated just like one third of it, right? So what we learn how to do is like, okay, where can I help?
Yeah.
I can do the boring stuff that you hate. Like I can do the park bench in silence because that's a modeling job, and all you have to do is like polish it up, right? And
no, but
and
it's kind of
it's a small
underselling
thing, but
yourself.
it's like one half an hour that he doesn't have to spend on that, and you can spend that one half an hour on something else. So
But
we
that's what I'm saying, that it's also kind of important that everyone knows where everyone else's direction is heading, where what you are doing, so you can actually help each others out. And this is how learning actually happens. This is
Yeah,
why
but
at the end you came out and you can model stuff in 3D that isn't a bench or a chair, and maybe something
this
people.
is also a learning experience because this hasn't been like that uh, uh, earlier. Like there were times when we were doing an intro. Uh, I had an idea. I I I hid away for like 2 months, and then I
Nice.
popped up and hey guys, the intro is ready. Um, and that was not really good for the group morale because they were kind of left out. So this kind of changed over the years, where I tried to involve the guys into content creation, so that they would feel like that the intro is theirs too, like not just the music, but involving them into
And
ideas and direction and stuff like that. And well, if I look at it historically, uh, for many years the creative process looks like this: like, hey guys, let's do an intro. The party is half a year away, and then I didn't do anything,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
and,
just
and,
normal,
and,
isn't it?
and the guys kept me
yeah,
pushing and do something already, and then it's 2 weeks before the party,
Obviously.
and then
see,
finally do something.
see, as I said, 2 weeks is fine.
Yeah, but this process completely changed with clean slate.
Yep.
Uh,
So
as,
you
as
actually
Garga,
had much more time to do that.
yeah,
Uh,
as Garga said, I have a kid now, 1.5 years old, and free time is luxury now. So I had to time manage much better. So it wasn't like I take off 2 weeks from work before the party, uh, and instead I had to do a little bit of the intro every weekend, and
yep.
this started like I think around Christmas before
Mhm.
revision. So I had like 3-4 months of weekends to do the all the content.
So
And
this,
this also helps us as in seeing small bits of content come in,
Yeah,
helps us to make suggestions, work on the tooling, and maybe riff off those ideas
yeah,
and do some stuff. And the most important part about this is that at least for me, seeing the other guys doing stuff inspires me.
yes,
It,
does.
it's again that feedback loop, uh, and that's just it.
yeah, and it's very important for me to, as Gargay said, the music is usually what is created first, and it's very important for me to have the music because when I listen to Gargay's music, uh, immediately pictures start to pop up in my head, and music starts the creative process for me really.
And that's
I always thought that this thing with the pictures that start popping in one's head whenever you hear a perfect piece of music are something is something that happens to everyone, until I found out that coders as well as musicians are actually very happy when someone approaches them who has the skill to see pictures in their head while their music is running. So sometimes we take this stuff, I think, for granted that other people don't need that, but turns out Gaga makes music. You see pictures, and Boise happens to know how to make it work.
Yeah,
Yeah, basically, yeah.
yeah, that's the
Draws
magic.
the rest of the all.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's, I mean, it's a bit complicated than that in the sense that, like, for example, the process usually starts with like the idea, which is usually just a single sentence of like, you know, uh, darkness was just like the complete collapse of a civilization kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't remember that. We don't have actual words. It's just sort of like we're describing a mood. We're
Yeah, yeah.
describing a script of what happens when it's a very story based thing. And for example, for darkness, we weren't like Zoom was not managing to communicate what he wanted it to sound like, and I wasn't sure what he wanted because initially I thought what he wanted was more like what Silence ended up being, which is a more cinematic, like rousing thing. And he just said basically, and what he did is he chopped out scenes from movies where he thought the sound design was just right, and I think it was like this 4 or 5 minute montage
yeah, yeah,
from I don't know what like a True Detective was one of those I didn't.
Oh yeah.
Maggie I think was
Nice.
another one.
yeah. It was kind of a storyboard from
Yeah.
screenshots of movies.
No, but that was a video as well with the audio, and I just remember like I clicked on it, listened to it, and said, "Oh, you want horror?"
But he
And he said,
didn't.
and he just saw paused and said, "Yeah, that's the word." And then, yeah, you want horror, and that's and from that point on, like the music was done in like 2 weeks because suddenly I understood, and it's just that like he doesn't have the musical vocabulary, and my
Yeah.
vocabulary as a musician doesn't necessarily fit the ideas because I use all these weird terms like bass line and snare drum
Yeah, no, that's complete
and four
bullshit.
four and all that.
Yeah.
But like that's not. I usually ask him like, how do you want the intro to feel like? Do
Yes.
you want it to be uplifting? Do you want it to be sad? What's the tone we're going for? And of course, he doesn't have an answer because he doesn't know yet. But it helps me like any little bit of information that I can translate from that is just helps build this
Yeah.
big picture of what music ends up being.
I guess it's also like a a thing that also feeds into the trust relationship where you, as a visual artist, can go to the musician and, like I describe my vocabulary, I could go to someone and go, I want this to sound like a bite in a freshly plucked strawberry, this kind of thing on a summer's day, but with a nicely techy rhythm. So for me, as a part-time musician, it sounds like complete whack bullshit, but I know that this is what my feelings are, and I'm not ashamed to tell this to a musician, because if they kind of vibe with that, they probably will know what I mean in the end if I try hard.
There's also one part. So this really sounds like Zoom is always creating these ideas, and we are riffing off. But this requires for our process and our tooling to be polished to the point where we can do this. And to get there, it's a cyclic thing. Whenever we are creating a new tool set, first we are always doing more techie stuff. Uh, and you can spot those intros. And as the tooling gets more polished, we can move into the actual real production part, where we can do more high concept things.
I would say that like several intros, in we had new tech, and the tech actually defined a concept and
Yeah.
idea, but you wouldn't see that. You wouldn't
That's
notice
what you
that, I
want,
think. Or like
probably.
you wouldn't be able to tell that off-screen colonies was one of those like, oh wait, well it like sure you can tell that everything has all these reflections and stuff, but that was the core of it, of the tech,
Let's
or
reflect.
that
Yeah.
you
Clean
can
Slate is a good example for this because we
yeah
completely changed the rendering token.
yeah
And that's why people are saying it's also clean is the
Yeah.
new render tech.
I mean, I have zero vocabulary how to express, but yes, it felt very clean, obviously, and real. And I would like, in my vocabulary, I would say I could touch these things, but I can't because it's a museum. So it
There
feels
was
like
one guy who posted on Twitter that I want to eat this intro.
yes, I do. I
And
do.
he works for like this large game dev studio. I don't remember which one, but I was like, that's like the weirdest, one of the weirdest, coolest compliments I've got.
Yeah, I mean, like it's so, because it doesn't just feel polished, it feels personal. So that you, when you want to eat the intro, you have the feeling that it's not like the storefront decorations that look kind of real but are a forbidden snack, so to say.
It's a very high fructose intro, is what you're saying. But yeah, like so it's funny because we keep saying like, oh, we start with an idea, but really the tech is what sort of limits, but also guides us towards an idea, I think. And then, but there are intros like Silence, which were just sort of like, okay, we have these two intros and we want to close this, and so and that was where there wasn't a whole lot of new tech. I think I added mostly
Yep, yeah.
synth stuff, and it was just like we knew what we were doing.
Yeah, I
That
think
at
this is
that
a
point.
problem for many people, because even like in the scene we have this heavy emphasis on the tech side of things, but the more you learn, the more possibilities you have, regarding the things and the concepts that you can create. So I have witnessed, not just from myself, but from many people, that they are sitting on all this knowledge, but they can't decide where to go with it. So
Yeah.
this is where you
There's
start
one point.
jamming.
There's one point I really need to raise, which is actually Gargai's point. We are talking about tooling a lot.
Yes.
Gargai had a very, very good talk about this topic, less function. Why you should not write a demo tool.
I have never listened to the talk, but I can almost
It's in
imagine.
Hungarian. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
you should actually make that in English.
No parties asked me to do it in English.
I am actually, like, you have about 18 minutes to make 10 points, but also connect it with the topic. But I do agree there, because um there is the problem with l- I want to with a how to find a demo group sentiment is that you have to reach to people, and some people retreat by procrastinating with code. So, but first I'm going to write the demo tool, and then I can approach an artist with
Oh,
that.
that's
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, 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 no.
yes,
Like you're
yeah.
basically doing it for imaginary artists that may or may not
Yes,
show
Yes,
up.
exactly.
and
That's
the reason is that showing off a tool is flashy, but if you don't have a release with it, then it's for nothing.
but also like if you're making it without an artist, you don't know what they want.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't have those convenience things in place, or you don't have the feature set in place.
That is a
And then you give it to
very
them. Yeah.
And you
very
don't know what
important
tools
point.
the artist works with, so
Yeah,
you
so
you
so
you can't
uh,
know what
the
you want
process
to
of
do.
us creating the tools is always cooperation, or all the features are discussed, and we are riffing off previous iterations, and it always is built to be usable by the artists.
But at one specific artist.
Yeah, well, actually two, because we have other users as well, but that's
Largely, if
yeah.
Zoom's requests generally sort of go above everything
Yeah,
else.
he has veto rights, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so I think because it's always like we love showing our tech chain to people, right? Because we think it's interesting. But whenever we do, and someone is in the crowd who's not done a lot of coding like that, it just wants to, and they see it, and they see like this almost professional software package, and they go just like, yeah, what, like I'll never get there because they don't know that it's been 20 years that we've been doing this, right?
Yeah,
So,
and
so I think that's why you shouldn't start with a demo tool. We all have 20 years of experience. We know exactly how to do one.
so
Even we don't get it right.
so jumping off that, you say you shouldn't start with a demo tool, but
No,
we have all these people who joined us throughout the pandemic, and many of those are actually like they are interesting in what we do, and they are doing cool stuff as well. But I think what everyone sometimes is asking, where should I start? I'd really like to reach out, and I would really love to do these things that look like way more than I could ever do, and I could never do something like this. And then the carousel of thoughts start. But what would be the advice be? I mean, where should new people who are interested in all of this start? What's the game plan?
that's always a very tough question.
I know that's
Uh,
why you're here. I mean, I'm a noob. You know me.
and that really depends on what the inclination of the person is. So if they're a graphician or they're a musician,
I mean, the
uh,
alternative is they would write a demo tool. So instead of writing a demo tool,
Like as we're assuming that we're talking about a code-centric
yep,
person here.
we are assuming a code-centric person who is reading about all that stuff. All I mean, the usual code-centric person.
Right.
And
So
yeah,
I think, but I think this advice would work for everyone. Is that just keep watching things, and eventually, like, but not just the good ones. Watch, if, when there's a demo compo with 15 entries, don't just watch the top three, because the top three is top three for a reason, usually. But watch the bottom 15. Eventually, when you watch enough, and we're talking about dozens of demos, you will eventually find something where it's like, yeah, I could probably do that. And then that's your sort of game plan. And you usually, I think, human nature, you will probably end up aiming that's like 110% of your capabilities. And that's where the challenge is. That's where the interesting part starts to happen. But you just have to find your little entry points and barriers to it. We just wanted to make a demo. Like, I don't know about you guys, but we
oh yeah,
just
always.
wanted to make a demo. And that was like,
demos are
that's the
kind of
goal.
cool.
And then once the first demo was done, like, okay, the second one has to be a better one than the first.
We started with Petsky animated graphics in Basic on a
Nice.
C64 uh, because that's what we knew.
Well, that was never released, though.
and
No,
and
no,
we
no.
can surely say that you know a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Didn't look like Petsky last time I checked.
Depends on the alcohol level.
and the streaming quality.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, probably. So,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
I think the idea is just like I mean, if you don't have, if you've never written a single line of code, then you're gonna have a problem, because then that's first
Oh,
you have
that
to
works.
catch up to the point of like, okay, how do I open a file? How do I open a window? That kind of stuff.
Oh, you
I
can
mean,
figure that out.
there's gonna be a really boring section of just trying to get a pixel on screen. That's always like
there are already solutions
yeah,
for
yeah.
skipping that.
Yeah, there are like processing and C# and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
and you can just go to shader tool, for example.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
very good start for thinking as a graphics programmer.
And
Yeah,
there's,
yeah.
I don't think that there should be this shame around using tools other people wrote as well, because
No,
it
that
honestly is better than anything. Honest, really.
we do.
Yeah.
We do.
Well, if I had to give advice to a graphics artist who inspires to be in a demo group and doesn't have a coder, just try commercial game engines like Unreal or Unity, and probably playing devil's advocate here, because these tools are kind of hated on the demo scene.
Yeah, just
But-
don't go for Nanite, because not many demo tools are good. Demo engines are supported.
But these
But there's
these
also
tools-
cable GL. Just saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But these tools give you experience in real-time graphics. So you don't necessarily need to do stuff that stand its place on demo scene party, but you get experience, you show it to your friends, and you get experience, and maybe you get enough experience to get a coder's attention, and then you form a demo group.
I
And
think
maybe you
it's
can
not
enter it
just.
into the revision 3D compo.
Yes, please do. I would love that. And I think it's not just about experience, it's about gaining the right level of confidence
Yeah.
before being safe and feeling well enough to go to other people and pitch your ideas, because how would you have to believe yourself that you're not hot shit, but at least not shit, to speak to another person about the stuff that's been going on in your head.
Yeah, yeah. On a scale of shit to shit, where you want to be.
Yeah.
But one thing that occurred to me is just that also what I think is super important is that, like, if you're not necessarily a confident person who just gets this sort of absolute idea of where you are on that scale, learn and find the people who are willing to criticize you, but the kind of people who they're what they're talking about.
Yes.
Because your mom is always going to like what you made, right?
Yeah.
That's not an objective criticism. And there's always people in the
Speak for
scene who
your
don't do
mom.
anything but love anything, and they're always happy, and they always like everything what you make. Find the one voice who points at your stuff and goes, "That's not right," or "That doesn't sound right," or "Don't do that," or "That would be better if you would do this."
And we do this for each other.
Oh yeah.
That's very
Oh yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah. My favorite comment for the Upstream Colonies soundtrack was when Boise said, like, "Not bad. If you look at 249, that 12th note is wrong." What the fuck is the 12th note? But he was right, but yeah, but also like again, it's a team sport.
Yep.
Even in 2021, if you look at who's on the charts and who's getting the awards, it's a team sport.
It is.
And I think because the modern age is sort of turning each of us into a brand and making us a bit more insular, just because the way social media works and stuff. It's very tempting to think that you're the one who has to do all these things. Back in the 90s, that was almost unheard of. It wasn't until like I can think of like A and B and maybe myself and a couple of other people who would go sit down and do the entire demo themselves, and it wasn't usually working out because
I mean,
it has its upsides and its downsides. And now it's almost like people think that's the norm,
and you would
even
know
though
because
there are still very few examples of it.
I
And it
mean
shouldn't be.
you actually went ahead and made PileDriver on its own, on your own, and
Yeah. But like,
it
it's
wasn't
not
the
fun.
smoothest experience.
I would have given my half an arm if it wasn't doing PileDriver alone.
Yeah, and
That was the most isolating experience. That's the worst. That's why, like, after that, Clean Slate was like, finally.
This raises one of the points that we talked about before this talk. is that we can trust each other to
Yes,
do their own part, and trust is a very very important thing in this. We are basically brothers in arms.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just going back. Like that's why conspiracy worked in the first place, because we just knew each other and we were friends and we were. I mean, I don't want to say like super close, but like I know Boise and I were good friends, even though like there was a rivalry, and I think
Oh yeah,
there still is kind of.
yep.
There's still kind of a rivalry,
please do tell.
but like it was never ugly, and it was always like I was because another thing was like we used to live in three completely different cities.
Yeah.
So every time we would meet up like once or twice a year, it was such excitement to like, wow, I get to see all the guys again, you know. And then there was up until like a couple of years ago when Zoom moved to
Yeah.
Budapest as well.
Yeah.
That's when we started living in the same city. So it was that added layer of like excitement every time. So if you but it was just us hanging out in IOC and just realizing like I like this guy, I like these guys, I just want to hang out with these guys. We are very similar in our attitudes, and I don't think that's hard to find. You just have to talk to people, and you just have to, and you know, they may be across the globe. They may be in completely different countries, continents. They may be a different, you know, gender, sexual orientation, whatever. You just go outside your little box that you're scared to leave because suddenly, like all of a sudden, you might be getting along with someone you were just becomes that other half of like creative process that you needed.
Absolutely. And I think many people also don't reach out because I think I can safely speak for most of us when I say that we aren't as confident as we look. And behind all of this is still a nerd waiting for other people to ask, "Hey, do you want to nerd around with something that I thought would be cool?" And sure, I do. Hit me up, talk to
Absolutely,
me.
I think every time I sit down to do a soundtrack, I'm like nerves up to here and shaking and like not shaking but like there's always especially after like 20 years of conspiracy, it's a tremendous weight of like, oh, the next big thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you guys feel about that, like if that ever comes to your minds.
Well, I'm confident that we are going to do our best, and that's good enough for me uh, at this point.
I think your best is good enough
Well,
for me as well.
originally, it was the goal was to win. Now it's just to have fun with it.
Yeah,
But I wanted to raise one point to the people who are looking for groups or looking to join people. There are resources for that. Puet has like a what was the name of the part?
Wanted.scene.org.
Yeah, wanted.scene.org, where you can basically post out an ad for a musician or
I have a counterpoint to that because I think if we would have done that, I don't think it would have worked. I think for
no.
us it was very important that we were friends first.
Yes, of course, but that is also a way of maybe finding people.
yeah. I
It
have
has to be
I
put out
kind
there.
of have a fun story to tell about this edition of Nevoke, because the idea behind we do not do real like combos and whatever people do, if there are four entries of that theme X we're going to show. So when NF4, for example, but when a caller, not naming names, approached me and I said, "Okay, are you doing something for Evoke?" And he was like, "Not yet. Should I?" "Yeah, sure." Like, but I don't have a musician. "Oh yeah, wait a minute." And then like within 5 minutes he had a musician, and within 2 hours he had a soundtrack. So everyone was happy to do the thing they were best at, and nobody felt like, okay, awkward, somebody wants to do something. No, some people enjoy saying yes to shit, I think, if the idea is cool and the time is right. So there is no pain in getting a no from time to time as well, or just hitting up people, and not just to pitch but also just to talk about what's going on, and how the others is feeling about something. Like just reaching out absolutely does not hurt. Trust me, and I have been the shy kid all my life.
Yeah, but like I think like yeah. There's the saying of like comparing your behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reels. Like there, every single soundtrack I have like 5 versions that I threw out that because it was crap, right? And then Zoom does the same thing, but he doesn't show us.
Oh yeah,
That's one of
never
the things.
show.
Like we think that he's not doing anything, but he has like a bunch of scenes that he just started on and just didn't work,
Yeah.
and we just never got to the stage of
Yeah.
that.
I can relate.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like we could, we're a clean slate. We had a bunch of stuff that like,
Oh yeah. We literally had a kitchen
yeah,
sink.
we literally modeled a kitchen sink.
I heard that, and I really want to know how does that fit in the context. So, and how elegant and sexy can you make a kitchen sink look
Well,
like?
the idea was
Turns out, not very.
And that's
let's
the
throw
thing.
everything but the kitchen sink
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there,
yeah.
and that happened.
Yeah. We had a toilet.
Yeah, those were the cliche objects.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Yeah,
went too far.
We
but
did
but
have fun with it though.
Yeah. It was.
isn't it always a play around cliches for whatever you do? Because once you start getting into it, all these tiny obsessions you have with the inspirations you have, and whatever is stuck with you since the childhood, and when you get into it, you tend to just roll and have joy with whatever cliche you're at, and sometimes overdo it.
But I think also like if you broaden your horizons by consuming enough media from all ends of the spectrum, like indie video games to weird music to obscure sci-fi films or documentaries, that kind of stuff, then you
Puzzle
broaden
games.
your sort of pool to pick from. Like the cassette tape and the photo camera idea came from this game, which I keep forgetting the name of, some assembly required or something like that. Assemble with Care. Assemble with Care was the name of it. And I remember showing the guys like, hey, I think we could do this in 64K because it's just a box with it's a photo camera. It's a simple film
Yeah,
camera.
but you had to did you have to make some adjustments? But it was to the cassette that you had to make some adjustments, and it does not
Oh
have
yeah, but yeah,
film.
sometimes technical things
Yeah.
come up, and we have to swap out one feature for the other because it's 100 bytes smaller. But
Or 3K.
That's a lot.
yeah,
That's a
or
lot.
several kilobytes in this
Yeah.
case.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, if you are a creative person, pay attention to not live in your own creative bubble, but take a look at other, not just the demo scene, but other scenes like, I don't know, advertisements or movies or something like that. So you don't fall into the mistake of doing the same cliches like other people do.
Yeah, I
yet
mean,
another
there's
tunnel.
cliches and there are like tropes, and tropes are
Yeah.
easy to communicate with sometimes. But I wholeheartedly agree with everything
And
that you said, and I even work in advertising, so advertising wouldn't be my first genre I'd jump to for inspiration. I'd go to like, I don't know, video games or something where I do not work in. But absolutely with you on that, that it's you have to go outside and see what it is, and on one hand you sometimes are idling, and there are weeks where you just haven't done anything, but are you really, because you are consuming and you are walking with your eyes ears open, so you
Yeah.
absolutely have to do that.
Yeah, sometimes you are lazy, but you need to do your research
Yeah.
to do something new.
And
See,
yeah,
I'm
it's,
going
we
to justify
mentioned
that.
this before. So like, I don't know, it was a week ago. We talked a bit with Zoom, and he's like, "Have you seen that PC in the latest Loki that was so spacey, and we have to do stuff like that?" It's
Yes.
yeah,
I
it's
have.
constant. It's
we go to movies together. We used to.
yeah.
That's
But
nice.
it was still possible. We used to go together, and like we're big fans of like Christopher Nolan and like superhero movies, because superhero movies always have very great spectacle. They're not,
Yeah.
they're crunchy entertainment that's boring, but like the films, just sometimes the spectacle, like Doctor Strange was a great example of like just a visually shockingly good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree because when I saw the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse one,
Oh yeah.
Oh
that's
yeah,
Oh
oh
yeah.
god.
that's where I got hit with this, I got down with a visual sickness. So I went over and over it for the next few weeks, and like few months later I made a demo. So going to movies apparently works.
Yeah, but well, movies, these kind of movies, have hundreds and thousands of people's best ideas distilled into them. So
Yeah.
I guess it also
Yeah,
feeds
yeah.
into the question, like, I mean, people aren't like professional artists, and like people who already found the confidence and the balance between the confidence in adapting material to its own, yeah, not just taste but also flavor. Yeah, flavor basically. There's this, okay, I really like this, but if I start doing this, I'm going to steal it, and it's not my own. And what I always think, it's okay, you can't possibly, you can't steal it. Try it. You will at one point or another fall into the zone, and it's going to end completely different, and then it's yours. Take it. Go
But
with it to Strom.
I would also mention that like if you're not confident with with your own area in terms of like, oh, I'm not a good enough graphics artist, I'm not a good enough musician, rigorous practice, even if because when it's when we were doing it, we were like 18, 20 years old. We just did it because that was the most fun thing to do. We didn't have the pressure of doing it. We sucked at it. We were terrible. But we just kept doing it and iterating, and
Oh,
we had to
thanks.
make like
I
seven
think,
songs a week, right?
yeah.
But at the same time, like that was like a head fake practice of just doing things and getting better at it, and I think that still works even if you're a more tenured person, but even if you're not, just have a rigorous schedule of doing something. Like if you ship one piece of art every week, it doesn't have to be huge, but
Yeah.
like the people every day, I
oh yeah.
think you can see the progress of the guy from the first picture to the last one of the year. And it's such a great way to seeing it. It doesn't have to be every day. You can do it every week if you really want to. And also, it's important to show it to someone,
Yes.
not just yourself, someone who doesn't matter, right? Because first off, you're getting at least some feedback, even if it's just like, okay, that's cool. But the other thing is, it will keep you yourself to schedule. It's the same as like like working out with someone else, right? Like
Yes.
they will keep you to the schedule of that doesn't matter
That's
so much to them, but it
yeah.
matters to
That's
you.
true. So
So it's
here's my someone, by the way, the
I,
one who gets to see the things I make that will never get shown to another person in the universe.
but
And
it builds familiarity with the tool set. It builds familiarity with just how to get to a certain visual, how to get a certain sound, how to like it even if it's not artistic, the skill level of just the muscle memory is very important to build up.
Yeah, we've been accused many times of stealing, and rightly so, because most of our intros took heavy inspiration, or some form of inspiration from somewhere else. But that's how you get experience. That's how you don't have to steal at some point, because all the ideas will come to you.
Yeah, like if you have a garage band, you start with cover songs.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, cover
That's
songs
just
are
how it
great.
is, right?
Also, it has to be noted that, of course, that the demo as a platform is so different from all the sources of inspiration that it's kind of transformative, because
yeah,
you need to fit into 64K in our case. You need to make it real time.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's not like an exact copy.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're,
it's always building our tool chains and experience and the way we work together,
Yeah,
for all of that.
so for anyone wondering where there's a new person in the room, we have our fellow organizer Charlie. And it was planned that he'd join at the moment. I mean, it was perfect where you guys spoke about having fun 20 years ago, because Charlie's also our old school compo organizer. But we're going to have to wrap this up uh, relatively soonish, and I'd like to hear some last words. That sound like I would kill you like right afterwards, but trust me that I will probably be. I'm not going to do that for now, but
Thank you.
let's have some rapid fire. I mean, why do you think people should invest time in working and stuff in 5 words or less? Gaga, you start. You already
Why
have one.
not?
5 words.
It's
Okay,
fun.
Because
fair.
it's fun.
Because
Yes.
it's fun.
Is it though?
Yes.
Initially,
Uh,
No, they shouldn't unless they feel like so.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You can't convince them if they don't want to, right? I think we're all artistic people by nature, and we just had to do it. It wasn't like we felt like this will bring us to like this whatever status we have right now, right? Surely, when we did it, we end up doing 20 years later. We certainly had a lot of positives come out that we didn't expect, of getting jobs and stuff,
Wow.
and our names getting recognized and stuff. You can put chaos theory in a CV and it counts, right? It counts
Yeah.
more than not having a diploma, right? But at the same time, that was not the game plan for us. We just wanted to make fun stuff because that's what was in our heads when we saw Second Reality. It's like, yeah, that's the one, that's the thing we want to do.
That is
We
the
wanted to
thing.
blow
This
people's
is my
minds
life
like
now.
we have been done to.
That's also like the handing the baton thing of like all these cool people made these things 25, 30 years ago that we got inspired by. And then if we make something that maybe we'll have the same fan base down the line, and we did. And we
Maybe. I
did.
think
And
you
and
guys
it's
actually
still
have
amazing.
potential to
That
do
really
that.
never factored into a fan base. No.
Not in a fan base sense, but like maybe we can make something that has that like of the
One thing I've been I kind of say, if I were to drop that right now, I've made something that will be remembered for a while, and that's a good feeling.
It is. And well, it has been a pleasure to have you here with me, and I feel like less and more of a noob now, like every time when I talk to competent people, which I'm incredibly thankful for. And
fake it till you make it.
yeah, that's exactly what I am doing, and I'm going to fake it and make it, and hand over to my favorite person in this room, and not just in this room, Anna, who is going to well, talk a little bit about our old school gone wild compo. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You can
Take
hang
care.
around and talk Hungarian, and maybe Anna will understand. So be careful.
Yeah, you can hang around because I guess I will have some stuff to say about conspiracy.
We miss you, Charlie.
Yeah, no, all the good stuff. Yeah, I just wanted to make on the subject of war stories, which was like in a previous Orga talk. I just wanted to mention like when Conspiracy was formed, right, in 2003, I think. Uh, from my perspective, right, I at that time we had a demo group which was left without coding force basically, and then Boise and Gargai did some demos which showed some coding force, and there was Zoom who like was super good in graphics and but was left without programmers. So at some point, I think I'm not sure if this was before or after forming Conspiracy, but I'm 100% sure I told him unknowingly what's going on in the background with you, that hey, you should work together with Boise and Gargai. I think it was after you formed that you just nodded like with poker face, right, Zoom or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure if you remember this, but yeah, I
I
do.
kind of remember that.
Yeah.
We also played into it a lot.
Yeah, it was fun. We had these couple of months where no one knew what we were doing,
Yep.
and Yeah, there we have a bunch of IRC chat logs about us putting on people on.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of think it's your fault that conspiracy was formed.
But no, I refuse. But thanks.